Hi, I'm Charlie Collins, and this is the Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast, brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award-winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service, 7 days a week. And thanks again to Kelly Centra at the Mountaintop here in Letterkenny for their continued support as we look forward and back at the Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure Championship matches, which take place next weekend and which took place last weekend. We've plenty to talk about. It's been a dramatic weekend with tremendous football played at intermediate level and at senior level. Some surprise results thrown in there and some great excitement during those matches. John Hearn, a very happy John Hearn, I have to say, for obvious reasons, is with us again, as indeed is Danny O'Donnell. Danny, I'm going to start with you because I think the last question I asked you last week was, have they a chance? And you insisted they had a chance. But let's be quite honest, did you really think they had?
Did I see that one coming? No, I didn't. To be honest, Charlie, I didn't. I thought they would give a performance, and I thought they would rattle this New Connell side. And I based that on the evidence of previous games where we said in here they're a very possession-based team, and the way that they're set up and the way they played yesterday, it was the perfect performance on the biggest day. And just their ability, Charlie, to retain possession, and how comfortable they are on the ball. Two-footed players, boys being able to fist pass off their hand and right hand and their left hand. And when I was watching this, and I said this to one or two people last night, it was reward not only for that group and that management team yesterday, but for the academy and what the academy has done in the club for the past 15, 20 years. I was involved. It was Jim Clark. Don't mind mentioning Jim. Jim could be roped into it a number of years ago. Yeah. And the philosophy down through the years has always been about producing footballers, comfortable, skillful footballers. And the game plan that Eunice had yesterday was based on that skill set, very comfortable on the ball. We're able to go into corners. We're taking a bit of pressure from New Connell, recycle the ball very quickly again, being willing to stay on the ball until the opportunities came. And then we asked them last week to be a bit braver inside the 45. Yesterday they asked serious questions of New Connell in through the D, in through the 45. Their hands were quick. And then you have, we said it last week, they have class forwards. Niall O'Donnell stood up yesterday for a county player who was going to be man-marked in the game, who had a lot of pressure on him going into the game. I thought he gave a huge performance. His brother Shane, I think everybody's been waiting on Shane to hit the highlights because he's real potential since he's been a young boy come through the club. Owen McGeehan gets the goal. He's killer for goals, in fairness to him. But Charlie, just overall, everything about them yesterday, they looked very calm, they looked very assured. There was no panic on the sideline. The players were just completely on it. And if you're a manager or coach and you're standing on the sideline, you see that your players are on it, it's a great day because you just know it's happening for you. And nothing should take away from that victory yesterday. I don't care if people say, Glenties were poor or New Connell were poor. Eunice made them poor. Yeah.
Danny, you've been saying all along during the championship, because it has been a hit or miss sort of a performances by St Eunan's, that they were waiting, they were getting ready, they were playing a certain type of style of football and they were getting ready to meet the big teams to bring that style of football in. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and I based that just on watching them in them previous games, and everybody, there was a frustration, even speaking to some of the supporters at times, to go, we should be playing more attractive football, we should be putting teams to bed quicker. But in that style of play where you're possession based, and the teams that came up against were quite defensive against them, I think once they were able to raise the intensity levels to where it had to go to yesterday, mentally, physically, they knew there's one big performance in them. And we said this last week, all you need in county final day is the performance. You can be the best team in the county all year round, but the county final day is about performance. And you have to credit the management team, you have to credit the players, you have to credit everybody in the background there to get that team ready for county final day and to perform the way they did yesterday. It was just perfect for them. Yeah. And huge congratulations, brilliant performance.
Absolutely. John, you've been frustrated at times during the campaign. You've said it here, and I know you've said it outside of here as well. But I mean, I said to you yesterday as I was passing you on my way up the press box, keep cool, because we didn't know what to expect. We expected Glenties to come or Leaf Connell to come with what they brought to Udore and brought to Kilcar and make it very difficult for St Eunan's to win the game. That didn't happen, and as Danny has alluded to there, mainly because of what St Eunan's did, not what Leaf Connell didn't do.
That was it, Jerry. They just controlled the tempo of the game from start to finish. Which, going into the game, as Danny says, it was hard to see that St Eunan's would just control the whole tempo of the game. I watched it back last night, Jerry, because when you're at the match and you're shouting and roaring and everything is so emotional, and you don't see the intricacies of what's going on and what Rory had planned and what way they were playing. But when I watched it last night after when I went home, Charlie, you know, Danny was very right there. Just at the last split second, they moved the ball out of the pass, then passed the pass right at this last second. Very rarely, I know Peter McAnuff got caught a couple of times on the turnover, but bar that, and Niall bounced one on the inside the D and it didn't come up to him. But you could count in one hand to tell the times that they lost possession, which was brilliant, and that's what they wanted to do. Very cagey the first 20 minutes. I think it was 1 point each. You know, but you know.
But even during that period, St John's were the better team.
They were.
They looked the team that were
and
knew
more
what
control.
They were doing. And
exactly.
more control.
And,
you know.
And that first 20 minutes for Niamh Conall, which, you know, games, Charlie, I've been there before in county final days when St John's haven't performed and we've gone on as favourites and, you know, we've lost and you think, oh, the smallest wee things. Just never got going for Niamh Conall. The first shot of the day, Ethan O'Donnell dropped it short. Just pressure at the right moment. Just, you know, Kieran Thompson put one in, Sean Patton caught it onto the crossbar, Owen waited an easy chance to put it wide to the far post. You could see that Niamh Conall wasn't happening for them, which gave our boys great belief. But it was cagey. But you know, we got the first point. There was a stage where Aaron Deeney came up with the ball, and I could hear on the terrace side the Niamh Conall boys shouting, "Let him have it, Steenie, he won't shoot. Let him have it, let him have it." Yeah. And he gave the flick inside to Conor O'Donnell, which opened up that goal chance that Shane had. Yeah. You know, so in them, as Danny said, in them big moments, Jerry, in the big game, St John's brought something different. They got that wee pass away. You know, they opened they unlocked the lock of the Niamh Conall defence, opened it up, and got their scores. Shane got that second point, which was great, and then the goal. The goal was massive. The goal just left the gap there for the whole game, and made Niamh Conall come out and play, which opened up the spaces in behind. And you know, for that goal, young Tobin goes in and hits Anthony Thompson a turnover. You know, big moment in the game. Peter McAnuff, brilliant left-footed pass. And I've slagged Peter McAnuff a number of times, and I've told him this. I've seen him. You know, I said to him a couple of years ago, Charlie, this is annoys me. These boys are coached to the death at development squads, and they're here and there. And like Peter McAnuff plays right half back, he goes up the field, and he comes onto his left foot to shoot. I used to see him doing this in the park all the time, and poor with the left foot. You know, and I said, Peter, why do you shoot in your left foot when you got to practice that if you're going to take it on? Yeah. You know, I said, does anyone tell you to do this? Not really. I said, but Pete, Jesus, if you're coming and you're coming in and you're going to shoot with your left foot, you got to practice it. And he's worked on it, and that pass was split second. McGeehan was gone, and the finish was brilliant. So from there on, Charlie, although you could never relax, but that gap was there, and we were definitely playing well. Yeah. You know, they were making Glenty score on with the kickouts. We were getting plenty of possession. Sean Patton was excellent, and just everything that we were doing was coming off us, and whatever thing Niamh Conall was doing just wasn't happening for them. And that can happen, Charlie, and before you know it, the game is gone and one team has momentum, and you know.
But Danny, there was only 3 points in it at half time. There probably should have been more. St John's had a couple of other goal chances. Niamh Conall only scored once from play, Leo's point, Kieran Thompson, so they weren't really playing well, but they were still there. And as we said earlier on, before we started recording, a couple of years ago against Gweedore, they were down in all 3 matches and they refused to lose. So I thought at half time, to be honest, I said, I don't know whether 3 points is enough here, because you're waiting for Niamh Conall to be Niamh Conall.
Yeah, and the crucial point was in the first 5-10 minutes of the second half. We said in here last week, if Eunice could get ahead, it would ask questions of Niamh Conall in terms of could they come out and play and chase down the lead. And they've done that in the past, but they needed goals to do it in the past. When we expected the onslaught from Niamh Conall to start the second half, never materialised. Because I would say clearly Eunice had prepared, this is coming the first 5-10 minutes, so we meet them with our onslaught and put doubts in their minds. And if you go back to the tactical element of it, the Union's constant movement of their players around the pitch, they were like, Niamh Conall liked to sit in defensively, 15 behind the ball, and they like to get contact on the ball carrier. So Eunice didn't give them contact on the ball carrier. And number 2, they moved their players constantly through the top half of the field. So your Ethan O'Donnells, your Dohertys were being dragged into corners, which meant if they did get a turnover, they were way behind the play in terms of getting that ball up the field. So they were starved of turnovers, which is a key element of the Conall game. And then when it came down to that second half onslaught, they never got at it. And then they were just to 14 men, and all of a sudden it started to unravel. And I think you mentioned this earlier on, Charlie. I think their spirit left them. Yeah. And I was
You
telling
could
this
see it oozing out of them.
and that's due to St Eunan's style of play.
Yeah.
You know, if you're chasing ball all day long and it's frustrating and the opposition are kicking scores, you're starting to go, geez, we need to start getting contact on these boys. But they couldn't get near them.
No.
And the Eunan's were even moving the ball around. They weren't moving the ball around inside the D. It was always outside the 45.
And they would go back to Sean Patton from the halfway line,
exactly.
and Niall O'Donnell would be there, and they would go over
Yeah.
back. Jerry, I think if someone should do it, watch the second half. Now, this is only coming to my head, but I remember when we were watching that. If you watch the second half, there was vast periods of the game. No, I know vast periods, maybe 2.5 minutes where St Eunan's had the ball.
Oh, yeah.
And there was 4, and that must be, as Johnny says, so demoralising. Glenties just could. In the second half, Glenties had no possession of the ball.
No.
And then the last 50 minutes when they had it was just kicked in, hitting
Big
hope.
high, the Hail Marys.
And you know, and some days that works for you, but you know, when you lucks out, and everything breaks. And St Eunan's gathered up the ball, and we went up the field and hit them on
Martin
the
Regan
counter
said
attack.
to me, and did an interview with me on the pitch straight after the game, which I appreciated because it's difficult for him.
Yeah.
And he summed it up. He says we couldn't get into contact with them. The way they were, we
yeah,
couldn't get
yeah,
into
yeah.
contact
and
with
that
them.
goes back to what Danny said about Rory having this plan. And like I know from talking to Rory and the boys, and I'm not in the inner circle, far from it, but you know, they identified the game against Neve Conn last year and all the unforced errors that St John's.
Niall O'Donnell said that after
I think
the
it was
game.
21 or something.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and Rory just knew that you couldn't do that. That's their bread and butter. They live on that there, breaking in and hitting you on the counter attack. So they were not going to get turned over under any circumstances. Now it made the first 20 minutes awful to look at, over and back, but county finals are for winning, as Keenan Ward said to you, Charlie, in another interview, and they don't matter how they did it, and it just kept the ball moving, and Neve Conn couldn't get their hands on it, therefore couldn't get into the game, and it was just a masterful performance from Eunan's.
But the surprising thing for me as well, Charlie, in terms of like we've given Neve Conn all the plaudits in here over the last few weeks and around the county, and
deservedly so.
And they are a formidable outfit. Maybe yesterday they just didn't perform, but I found it strange that when they were that 3 points down, then when 4 or 5 down, that Kieran Gallagher was taken off very early in the second half. I thought they would have gone with the twin towers inside, Charles McGuinness and Kieran Gallagher, and went with early ball or high ball in early in the second half and tested Union's rear guard and pushed men up the field. But they never pushed
No,
anyone
there's
up
only
the
when they
field.
were desperate they started.
Only when they were desperate, and then. Like we questioned in here last week, do they have scoring forwards? Do they have that out-and-out marquee forward to carry the fight? They brought on Brick very early, Brendan McDyer early, and Keelan McGill. So that were 3 forwards on the bench they brought in. But the game was gone at that stage.
None of their forwards scored.
Nobody scored.
No, hard to believe.
3 points from Kieran Thompson, 2 from Freeze, and 1 from Liam McAloon. That was the sum total. I mean, St Eunan's won by 10 points. It's
unbelievable.
It's still unbelievable that St Eunan's won by
10 points. And Paul Nupp. You know, maybe if could have had a young Tobin there, an extra pass, and they could have been in for a goal a couple of times and things like there. And just looking like Kevin McGettigan, Charlie, great player, scored a wonderful point against Skidore, scored a brilliant point against Kilcar. You know, came up and had a chance in the second half.
Got a goal against Kilcar.
Yeah,
You remember?
but and got a great point out in O'Donnell Park. But he had a shot from under the stand off the side of his boot, 20 yards wide. When it goes wrong, it goes wrong. And you know that was
days
just
like
that
that,
was we've been there absolutely, and that's what happened. You know, he was playing brilliant. He had 2 shots before that, and they went over the bar in big games at crucial stages. And when it goes wrong, and that was it. And you know, Kieran Thompson had a 50 or just outside off the ground, you know, doesn't rise it, goes wide. You know, so when it goes wrong, and we've all been there, and it's a hateful place to be, but you know, that's just
the other key point Union's had the advantage on yesterday is on their pace throughout the pitch. When Union's moved the ball at pace, I know the game had opened up slightly at that stage, but when Conor O'Donnell coming from 6 was pace. I thought Keelan Ward was superb in the game again. I thought Darryl McGrew around the middle of the field was very, very good. Kevin Keeley does a very understated job for them, same as Sean McVeigh. But when the Unions decided to move the ball at pace, they had far too much pace for that particular team yesterday. And look, it's a 10-point hammering, Charlie. If we're being brutally honest about it, it really was.
Start of a new era, John, if we move on, but start of a new I made this point to Rory. I mean, sometimes we get carried away with stuff like that, but given the age profile and everything that goes with that team and the squad size and the people he's available to him, you know, because even watching the reserve game, you had the Cormac Finns and the Niall Hannigans and the the young Brian McIntyres, young O'Dowd, you know. Is this the start of a new era?
Well, I think so, Charlie. There's no doubt about it. To get over the line in a county final is massive for any team, and a lot of that team is very young, and I think 10 of them made their county final debut, so that's massive. So, you know, I said this to someone else yesterday. Like, we have 10 years to look forward to. We're not going to win every championship, but we're going to be thereabouts,
Competing.
and hopefully we'll get our 2
Your
or 3
share
or
of
5
them.
or 6. It just depends, how good they're going to be, or how good Glenties are going to come back, and Gidor and Kilcar and these other teams. So it means that we're going to be there, Cherry. There's no doubt about it. We're going to be there contesting, which is great from St Eunice people, that we've that to look forward to. A new team coming through, plenty of exciting players there, plenty coming behind them, and it's brilliant.
And a new contract for Rory Kavanagh.
Oh,
if he was a soccer manager, they'd be throwing money at him.
I know that the chairman has to make them hard decisions. And people said to me last year, like when Richard Thornton was there and a good manager and was doing good work, and a lot of people in the club, the players, had a great time for Richie, and they were happy for him to stay on. But like when Rory approached me and says, I want to take over the job, you couldn't turn him down, because he was hungry for it. That's what I liked. It wasn't someone in the committee looking for a manager or asking Rory, do you want? He came saying,
you hadn't to drag him to it.
I want to take over. And when Rory Kavanagh comes to you like that, it's brilliant, Charlie. And
man with a CV.
But still a brave call by the club. Fair to you, John, the chairman, and Rory, because
well, I don't think so, Danny. I know what you're saying, but when Rory Kavanagh comes, he's our most decorated player, Cherry.
That doesn't always make a good manager.
No, it doesn't. But it's very hard for the chairman to turn around and say to Rory Kavanagh, "No, Rory, bide your time," or serve your apprentice.
Maybe so you're taking some of the credit for it as well.
Cherry. Cherry Mulgrew thinks that she get another county medal, but I'm not that greedy. I don't think the chairman should get one.
We'll leave it at that. Before we just go to the break, just a quick mention of the B final. Very one-sided. St Eunice had the game won by half time, or even before half time, 4-18 to 5 points against Ardra. Never in the game, Ardra, unfortunately. I think the hard work for St Eunice was done in the quarter final against Niamh Connell, in the semi final against Gidor. But Conor Morrison taking on the job of manager, John, just a quick word about that, because out injured, a lot of guys would hide away and whatever and would be feeling sorry for themselves. He did the opposite.
He did. Very tough for Conor, because a great club man, Charlie, and that injury was horrific last year. But no, he's got back involved, and Conor's brilliant. Like, I said to someone yesterday, if you cut Conor Morrison in half, it's black and amber. He's going to bleed. A great club man, and brilliant, and great to see him there, and just pray now, Cherry, that he gets over the winter and he comes back, that he can play for the senior team again, because he's a great lad.
Just a wee side, so only Conor Morrison, in terms of he's up in Dublin, my young lad started college up there, and he's been in touch with all the St Eunice young lads up there, just touching base with them, making sure that they're playing freshers football or playing for the colleges, and he's always there if they need him. So huge character.
Good lad.
Great lad,
good lad.
And well done to Shane O'Donnell, the man of the match in the senior game, and to Lee McMonigal. Nice to see Lee playing so well and scoring 2-3 yesterday. He was man of the match in the B match. So we'll be back after the break to look at the just before I go to the break, I'll stay with the senior championship, actually, the relegation playoff. I was at it in Convoy. Great game of football between Bundoran and Termon. Bundoran won it by a point after extra time, just about deserved to win it, but a key period in the game, Termon led by 2 points at half time. Ricky Goller got a great goal just after half time, put them 5 up, but in fairness to Bundoran, they kicked 5 points from play in the next 10 minutes to get back into the game, and from then on they didn't always lead, but they always seemed to have the edge. Paul Brennan got better as the game went on, kicked some great points in extra time. Relief for Bundoran, John, but disappointment for Termon. As Francie did the interview with me afterwards, made a great point. If you're in the senior championship, you only need to win one game to stay in it. You're down the intermediate, you need to win 6 or 7 to get back into senior. So a blow for Termon.
I think so, Charlie. There's no hiding it. They had they have big expectations of this minor team, and it is a good minor team, and a lot of good players, but step up to senior football is tricky, Charlie. It's a big step up, and that's a blow to them, because very easily they think and disintegrate, Charlie. Very easy. Boys can go to America next summer, their young team, someone comes with an offer to go to Philadelphia or wherever, and 2 or 3 of them go, and next thing they don't win an intermediate championship, and it can soon unravel, Cherry, but I'm not saying it's going to, but it can.
Yeah.
And that's a blow for them.
Well, we've seen it happen with Airua. They went to Division 3 in the intermediate championship for a long.
So there's no doubt about it. It's a blow to Termon, so they're going to have to regroup, because they have a good team, Cherry. They're young players. They were. Enda McCormick went away this year. Nathan McAway too, I think. So they need to get everyone back. Darren McDade.
They lost Keelan McDade and Darren McDade.
That's hard on them, because they wouldn't have.
Good forwards
are hard to get. So
look, the loss of those players. I mean, the McDade brothers. Even if that one of them, Dara got injured in that last game, he was carrying injured for a couple of games. But no more than them other relegation games, Charlie. They were brilliant matches, and that game on Saturday night seemed to be another cracker
of a game, Danny. Absolutely.
Look, we talked about county players in this room often enough. I mean, Paul Brennan clearly stood up to the plate in extra time. When
he got better as the game went on. Quiet first half, more in the second half, but certainly in extra time he drove them on.
But look, from a Termon point of view, yes, they'll be disappointed, but I think they've played 13 championship matches in 2 years and they'd won one.
Yeah.
So
Maybe with the young
unfortunately.
players, maybe down in the intermediate mightn't do them that.
Well, what
that
Dunlow have done this year will give them
absolutely
inspiration in
Yeah.
terms of Dunlow have come back down and look like they could come back up. We don't know yet, but so Termon will certainly target the intermediate championship next year.
And well done to Bundoran, because they've had terrible injury problems. 10 and 12 people are missing. They've had the COVID problems before games as well, where they were missing several players, and they've battled their way through to stay in the senior champion. And you could see how much it meant to them at the end of that game.
No, fair play to them, Charlie, because they were on the slippery slope too. You know, everything was going against them. They hadn't won a game more or less all year. They bet Kelly Beggs way back at the start, but no, fair play to them. It was a battle, Charlie, and they came out the right side of it. So, you know, good luck to them and fair play to them.
Okay, we'll take a short break there. Thanks to Kelly's at the Mountain Top, of course. Just to remind you of their special offer, you've got the early bird breakfast for only €5, and you also have lunch specials and their steak weekends as well. Great place to go. Kelly's here at the Mountain Top. We appreciate their support. Rejoin us for the talk on the Intermediate Championship final, which was quite a game in O'Donnell Park on Saturday. And you're welcome back. Well, we've looked at the Senior Championship from the weekend. Let's go back now to Saturday in O'Donnell Park to look at the Intermediate Championship. It finished, John, Cloughaneely 3-4, Dunlow 13 points. And remarkably, and I say that in all sincerity, remarkably, it looked as if Cloughaneely were going to win it in the last 5 minutes until Dunlow came back and scored 3 points, you know, to get a draw. Now, let's not beat about the bush. It would have been daylight robbery if Cloughaneely had won it.
I think so, Charlie. I thought they were brilliant, Charlie. I just had to admire the way they played, coming in as underdogs with well, they're not a very young team, but they're a lot of young players. I just liked their attitude, Cherry, the way they went after the game. They had the breeze in the first half. They chased everything down. They looked far the hungrier team, far the better organised team, had their matchups right, got their scores, missed a few too. There was a stage there, I think, when Danny Rogers came up and kicked 3, it slowed the game down, but he put 2 of them over. I think he might have missed 1, but Dunlow, young Kern got a point with outside of the boot the last kick of the first half, went in 7-2 up, and it was all Dunlow. And I just thought to myself, what are Clonelly doing? They were showing no spark at all, Charlie. No bit of drive, no one to slow down the game, get stuck in, just completely lethargic, Charlie.
A point in the first few seconds. And only another point in the second half, in the first half from a free by Jason.
Yeah,
that was the sum total.
Now there was a strong breeze there, but Jerry, saying that there, Dunlow showed what they could do against the breeze in the second half. So very disappointing from Cloghanady, and I'd say they know that themselves. They don't need me giving them more grief this week, but you have to somewhere along the line, getting beaten 2 county finals, coming into a 3rd county final. You don't mind. You could get beat any day, but not to bring anything to the table. That's what I thought, Jerry. Now, I might be harsh on them, but in the first half showed nothing. And for long periods of the second half,
they were 9-2 down, John.
9-2 down, and there was only one team in it. And Dunlow were playing this lovely brand of football, breaking fast and kicking it into the full forward or kicking it into young Gallagher or whatever, and men coming off the shoulder and running it in and kicking some lovely points and could have had another few points, So, definitely Cloghanady got out of jail, Jerry. Some of the penalty calls, it's hard to know. I thought the first one looked very harsh. I thought the full forward
complaints about the first one.
I thought the full forward. What I could see now, and I was in the terrace for the second half, was that the fright the ball was coming in, and the full back might have lost it, but the full forward seemed to grab the full back and pull him down on top of him.
Yeah.
Now, where I was standing,
I think so.
So I thought that was lucky. Now, the fairness to he missed the first penalty was a rebound. The keeper saved it, did it come off the crossbar?
Yeah,
and he buried it. But the second penalty, now he put it in the top corner. Was it Fitzgerald who took them?
But then in between, they got another goal, Danny. Danny Rogers should have dealt with that. A big high ball from 45 metres out in the sideline.
Yes, the young lad,
young
Sweeney was it? Or young Fitzgerald came off the field outside the boot. He was probably going for a point.
I would say he was.
But. Yeah, Danny seemed to lose it because it kind of hit the corner, the stanchion that area, which could be tricky enough for a keeper.
I think he came back and hit Danny then in the head and went into the net. That's what I've been told. Yeah.
But listen, John's right. Dunlow played all the football on Saturday evening. It was 9-2 at half time. I counted 7-2. They went to 9-2. They had 10 wides in the first half, Charlie.
Yeah,
the game,
10 wides.
The game should have been over at half time.
Big time.
And then we all thought, coming out in the second half, Clonelly with the wind, as John said, would get stuck into Dunlow and try and rattle them. I thought they would try and rattle their younger forwards because that's where, I thought physically they'd go. If they could, kind of get on top of them, it would go through the whole team. But Dunlow came out and they just dominated the early stage of the second half. And there's only that penalty call that got Clonelly. I know Jason kicked a point to get it back to 9-3. But even at that, there was no spark. The stand was quiet. The game was kind of done and dusted. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing went pear-shaped completely. But you have to credit Dunlow because...
Well, I was sitting there thinking, Dunlow are going to lose this game. How is this happening? Dunlow are 3 points down now, or Cloghanady are 3 points up. How is this happening? Dunlow are going to lose this game.
Cloghanady got 3 goals, Charlie. That's the 3 goals.
But I'd be critical of Cloghanady more than John in terms of their overall performance. When they went 3 points up, playing with the wind, how in the name of God did they not close that down and get men behind the ball, get your 15 men behind the ball, see out the game, win the Intermediate Championship, job done. But they didn't, and they allowed Dunlow come back up the field. One of the scores they got was quite an easy kick pass into young Bonard, full forward. That's right. Who turned and either kicked it or got a free or something.
Got a free, yeah.
They allowed Dunlow to continue to play football in the last 5 minutes, and I thought for a team in the third final looking to grab that championship, you pull and drag.
Get everybody into the 45.
Get everybody into the 45. You pull and drag players. You take a black. You do it. I know it's not nice football. It's the dark arts. But if you want something hard enough, maybe sometimes you have to go down that road.
We said this, I know it gets noticed what we say here with Cloghanady, that they don't play that way, Danny.
No, they don't.
I've always said that. They don't play that. They play 15 on 15. They go for it. And there is an argument perhaps that the players they brought off the bench, Killian Gallagher, John Fitzgerald, Maguire, and there was one other they brought. They're all forwards.
Yeah, McGeady came on.
McGeady came on.
What you probably have to give Michael Lynch credit for was he didn't wait about in terms of substitutions.
No,
he went very early in the second half.
Well, he
had to because he knew himself. Like Michael knows himself that the players weren't producing the goods, so he had to make the changes. But even from a tactical point of view, Dunloe, even with the win, played Jared Walsh as a sweeper, and then pushed him up on kickouts. I thought watching the game that they were getting that a wee bit wrong. I thought they should have gone with Jared Walsh, advanced the whole first half and really killed Clough-Neely, but they didn't play it that way. And then it worked out great for them in the second half because Clough-Neely kicked 4 or 5 balls down his throat in the first 5 or 10 minutes of the second half. Right down his throat. It was crazy watching it. Crazy stuff. Because they had the overlap with the extra player out the field, so they could have rammed the ball, but they continued to kick it and looking for Keg and looking for Sweeney inside, but Jared Walsh just stood there. He didn't have to move that much, John.
You're right, Johnny. I forgot that. It was crazy from Clough-Neely. They were completely clueless at that stage. You just thought they were kicking ball to ball. But Jerry, that response from Dunloe, like a young team, to be 3 points down against the Breeze after having the lead and with 5 minutes and time running out, and they get 3 points.
There'd been a 10-point turnaround at that stage.
To get 3 points.
Turnaround,
and young Gallagher had a chance to win it. I mean, that was some story for his father being the manager, but then. And then the other side, if you look at that last incident where Jason McGee had the free on the 65, the linesman, like Jason had a shot, went wide, he took it from the wrong position, he gained an advantage. The linesman called him back, allowed him a second chance.
That's right.
I mean, if that went over the bar, Jesus,
and Mark Maguire had a chance as well.
Well, that's off the same chance. Jason was short on the free and went to Maguire. Had that gone over the bar, would there have been?
What does this all mean in terms of the replay, which is fixed for O'Donnell Park at 2 o'clock now?
I'll tell you what, Jerry, anyone that's free on Saturday should go to it, because I thought it was a great game. I know. I thought Dunloe's brand of football, fair play them, was just brilliant, exhilarating. The way they went at it, threw the shackles off, nice kick passes in, young fellas running, not afraid to shoot. So you expect. I'm looking forward to it. I thought it was a great advertisement for intermediate football, and good crowd there, and good pitch, and exciting stuff. So call it, Cherry. Surely Clough-Neely, Cherry. They have I
there's
don't mind.
Surely in it with
no, well, there's not, Cherry. But someone has to bring a bit of life to the. They were lifeless to me. No one bringing a bit of spirit to it, or a bit of cuteness, or I don't know what it's about them, Cherry. They just seem to play it maybe as a bit as individuals, or waiting for someone else to do it. Maybe waiting for Jason McGee to ignite them, but. They have to bring something, Jerry, because what they brought the last day,
not good enough.
Not good enough.
Danny, put on your manager's hat now, and you're in Clough-Neely. What are you doing this week? What are you saying to them? How's the approach going to be next Saturday? What's the key things they have to bring next week that they obviously didn't bring this week?
Intensity, to start off with, will be a big one for them, because I thought they would bring that from day one against them young Dunloe forwards. I thought they'd get stuck into them. I thought they would say to them, "This is a county final, boys. You earn your right to play against us," but they didn't. So Michael will want that. He'll also probably make changes. The boys that come off the bench will probably say, "Look, give us the start.
Give us a chance.
Give us a chance this time." Yeah. So for me, from a manager's point of view, what are the learnings from a Clough-Neely point of view? What have they learned from that game that they can change going into this game? But this Dunloe team will be really confident coming out of it, the way they finished the game, the way they played in their first final. So I think Clough-Neely in bother here. If we base it on what we've seen the weekend,
they
had so many. Like Dunloe were so on top, and Dunloe, they're not going to concede 3 goals the next day. I can't see it. And the worry for Clough-Neely was they didn't create them. The Jason one was probably a goal chance.
Right.
He was
well worked.
The other 2 weren't goal chances. So Dunloe were very comfortable. 4 points. 3-4 was all Clough-Neely scored. So
2-3 of that from penalties and frees.
Yeah,
they got a point in the first minute from play, and they got the middle goal from play, which shouldn't have happened either.
Yeah. Well,
that's the sum total of their score.
The big learning they're going to have to come up with is the Jared Walsh factor. Jared Walsh is going to play as a sweeper regardless, by the sounds of it. So, do Clough-Neely play somebody else as their match up against Jared Walsh? Maybe a forward-thinking player in their sweeper position, and let him come out on the ball comfortably and create the overlaps and create the running game.
Yes.
Because if Dunloe do that, and Clough-Neely do what they did the last day, would just play somebody. I don't even think they played a sweeper. I think they kind of played him in no man's land.
No.
So if they play, say, somebody like, I'm trying to think off the top of my head who they could play in there, say one McGady or somebody like that, somebody who's good on the ball, they could then come out and play, and then get Jason McGee running off the shoulder and create that running game. Because if they do what they did the last day,
Jerry, the chat about sports psychologists, but if ever a team I think needed a sports psychologist, it's Clough-Neely, because there's something, Terry, not clicking there. I mean it in all fairness, they're lacking something, and it's gone on now too long, to be a laughing matter. To go out in a county final after being beaten 2 years in a row and play like that, I don't mind playing bad, but it's that they didn't bring any fight, Jerry. They didn't bring any spark.
But the man you're missing is Kevin Mulhern.
Okay.
Kevin Mulhern
well,
would bring that bait. He would bring that hit.
But someone
round
else,
the midfield.
he's gone. He's your leader, but
Somebody
someone
else
else has
has
to
to do it,
step up. You know,
Yeah.
and like, there's something missing there. So I hope
see on
Mickey
Saturday
Lynch
who
and
It'll be a cracking final.
That'll be a cracking
Yeah.
final. 2 o'clock, O'Donnell Park is the venue and the time we're told for that replay. And as the boy says, get along if you can. The first game, Cloughanidi B team beat Dunlow by 10 points to 8. A certain Dennis Boyle top scored there, John.
Well, if Mickey
4
Lynch,
points.
he's the worst options than putting me Dennis in because he's a footballer and
And
he'll not give it away.
A
You
young
know what I
fella
mean?
called Sean Geeney impressed me as well, playing in the corner forward. I think he got 3 points. And the Sean McBride, the full forward, played well. But they just aged the Dunlow team that had Ray Sweeney and Sean Sharkey and a few of the boys. It was a good game, actually.
Yeah, it was
good
a good
competitive
standard
game,
game.
good
Yeah,
standard
yeah.
in it. But Cloughanidi took it by 10 points to 8. And an intermediate championship, John, a man with St Eunan's blood,
Peter Blake.
yes, flowing through his veins, came off the bench and got the vital goal to keep Convoy in intermediate football. They beat Nevolton 1-8 to
I think he
1-5.
got it in the 50th minute. I was chatting to
Yeah.
Lawrence McMullen and John Anthony. They were just beside me at the match yesterday, and I was congratulating Lawrence. Oh, he was delighted, but he said it was skin of their teeth stuff. It
Yeah.
was real, you know.
Nevolton down, he beat Neve Colin to stay in this year's intermediate. Now they're back down to junior again.
Yeah, and they've been hovering around that for a couple of years, Charlie. And I think eventually, if you're down there often enough, you'll slip through the trap
Yeah,
door. And
yeah.
Convoy were probably the wrong team for them because Convoy would have had that hunger, having won the junior last year, to stay intermediate
in
this year. So
intermediate, yeah.
look, it went down to the last seconds, and Convoy got the rub of the green and are intermediate next year.
Goals, won games.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, we'll look forward to the junior championship final between Downings and Letterkenny Gales, which is scheduled for Sunday in O'Donnell Park. Rejoin us after this short break. And you're welcome back for the final part of our Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure Championship podcast here on Donegal Daily and Donegal Sport Hub. John Harn and Danny O'Donnell with me. We've looked at the intermediate and, of course, before that, the senior championship. Let's have a look now at the junior championship final, which is due to take place in O'Donnell Park on Sunday. We believe the throw-in time will be at 3 p.m, preceded by the Junior B between the Padraig Lifford and Letterkenny Gales. John, the Gales are there. I was just talking to you and Danny off air there. Both these teams have had a bit of a hiccup along the way in that Downing's lost to Narossa and the Gales lost to Carndonagh, but then them two teams flipped then in the semi-finals with Downing's beating Carndonagh and Gales beating Narossa. So they haven't had a perfect record up to here, but that matters for little because neither did St Eunan's and going into their final.
You took the words out of my mouth, Terry.
All to play for.
All to play for, and the Gales will be looking forward to it, Terry. They've been in a few finals now. It's a big year for them, the 25th anniversary, and they're putting a big push on to win this junior championship, but they're not going to get it all their own way, Charlie. We probably said at the start of the year that the Gales and Downings would be the two favourites to get to a junior final. The Gales have had a good enough season so far. They've got that promotion, the bit Fannet in that playoff, so they're up to Division 2, so they're going well, Charlie. But I suppose that result against Carndonagh maybe threw us a wee bit. We thought, wasn't going well, but they dug it out against Narossa, and Narossa were having a good year and a bit of experience. So the Gales are there merit, Charity. They're going into a final. They should be looking forward to it. It's a big year for the club, a big year for them lads to try and win a junior championship. I know young Frayne is missing with injury, and Conor McBurty could be struggling too. So there are big losses for them on the forward line, Charity.
Huge.
Because at that level you need your best players, and that's going to be it's going to be hard for them to overcome that. But they'll have players there. Young Brian Divers, a good player there coming through. And they have a few others there. So the Gales, but they're going to be up against it, Jerry. Downings definitely not going to give them anything easy.
No. Downings with a point or two to prove. I know they've been disappointed when they've got to the latter stages of championships in recent years. They played well. They beat Carndonagh over in Convoy. Loughran, Connor and Johnny McGrody and Keaton and them boys, when they were needed, they got going. But they're going to be needed. They're going to be needed now in O'Donnell Park on Saturday again.
Sunday,
sorry.
On Sunday, they are. And if you think back 12 months, Charlie, they were in the final against Convoy last year and underperformed. I watched that game on TV at the time.
You've been kind to them, Danny.
Yeah, probably. I've been kind to them. It was a really poor performance. So
terrible.
Redemption day for them, probably on Sunday. But look, at Letterkenny Gales, I'm sure they're intelligent men involved with them. They'll have looked at that Downing semi-final and they've seen what they did against Carndonagh. Now, what Carndonagh didn't do was play a sweeper or close down that forward line, because if you give Loughran, Connor and the likes of Keelan McGrody, Alan Pasoma coming from half-back, you give them time and space, they have the pace to kill you.
They want to hurt you.
So I would expect the Gales to have a defensive structure in place, and Anthony McFadden's in there helping with the coaching element. So I would expect them to come with a particular game plan. I'd agree with John, a lot depends on Conor McBurty being fit. He's their talisman, he's the main forward. So I think if he's on one leg, they'll put him out there because he's so important to them. But I would expect the Gales to bring a game plan to this final to curb the Downing's threats. So will they be able to curb the Loughran? Connor's a good player at junior level, very, very good player. So I think that Brian Dower lad might pick him up, possibly.
Yeah.
They'll need to close him down. If they can close him down, that'll take a big threat away. But I suppose with Eunan's having success at the weekend, the Gales will want to emulate that next weekend. So
you're piling the pressure on them, Danny.
Not me. They'll have plenty of motivation, I'm sure. But
well, they're going for the double this weekend as well, which is fantastic.
Double,
fantastic for them. But Danny, I mean, Downing's had that slip up against Narossa at home. Narossa went through that league part of it unbeaten and didn't play well in the first half against Gales, but certainly made a fight of it in the second half and nearly got there. And then Gales losing to Carndonagh, well, they've bounced back from that, as John said, in their semi-final victory. And the quarter-final before that, they just beat Moville in that. So they've been involved in a couple of real hard matches leading into this. That's bound to be a help to them.
Yeah, it's going to be a help to them, Charlie. And look, at the end of the day, no more than yesterday's senior final, it's about, like all these other games up to now really don't matter that much. It's what you do on Sunday for that hour you're out in the field. And look, Downings are probably bringing more experience of the bigger day into this final. But at the same time, I mean, another thing they did during the season was they changed the management team.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not privy to what happened there, but when you do that, and for whatever reason happened, the men that come in are under pressure to deliver. So
And maybe the players are under pressure to do it.
Yeah,
Maybe
the
the
whole-
players, maybe
very
the
much
players,
so.
The whole
or
setup.
the manager.
Yeah,
I don't know, but
Yeah, so once
you know,
once that happens, you're kind of going.
yeah.
Well, I think after last year, John, we've alluded to it. I mean, once people cross the white line, it's up to them.
It's
Then.
up to
Don't be
them.
blaming managers.
Exactly,
then.
exactly.
Players are getting an opportunity
Yeah.
to win a game,
Win a
like, you
game,
know. And I'm
absolutely.
sure with all the preparation that goes on now, every team's as well prepared as the last ones, as the
Oh,
other
and
ones.
that's
you
it,
know?
Jenny. I was going to make that point. That there'll be all sorts of game plans, no more than yesterday, and you're going to pick him up and
Aye.
who's going to
Yeah.
mark him and how.
Yeah.
But when they go across the white line, it's what player on the big day in the county final is going to say, right, he's sent out here to stop me playing. He's not going to stop me.
No.
I'm going to
I'm
take
taking
him on.
responsibility
I'm taking
for this.
responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm not going to look around and say, oh, well, I'm marked out of it because he's doing a man marking job.
Yeah.
You got to get yourself into the game. You got to do something.
Yeah.
That's what St. John's did yesterday. More of St. John's players got on top of their men, and
Yeah.
once that happened, the steamroller just kept going, and Glenties couldn't stop it. And either the Gales or Downings are going to have to try and do that because they're two equally matched teams. So who on both teams is going to stand
gonna
up
stand
and be
up?
the man and say, right, we're not going to get beat today. I'm going to have the game of my life. I'm going to be the man of the match here. I'm going to drive forward, do something different, and just have the game of your life and inspire your teammates and bring them on. And that's what you have to do in the day of a county final, Charlie.
You'd favour Downies, Danny, would you?
Well, just another element to what John's saying as well, Charlie. I think it came
Right.
across yesterday in terms of, I know hunger is a word that's thrown out there as kind of a loose word at times, but if the Gales on the 25th year have never won the junior versus Downings who have, what have they, 3, 4, 5 juniors in their back pocket,
yeah.
so where's the hunger? Where's that going to come from? That has to come from the Gales.
Yeah.
You know, I think, and it's been played in Letterkenny, they should have a huge support with them. And I think if they're well set up and they have a game plan, as John says, but game plans are useless unless players step up.
Apply,
It's
yeah,
all
that's
about
it,
players.
yeah.
So at the end of the day, the Letterkenny Gales lads going to cross the white line, Downey's lads cross the white line. Whatever team perform on the day will win the county final. So I would give, personally speaking, based on what I just said, I think that hunger and that drive to win, plus Conor McBrearty starting, will be crucial to the Gales.
Okay. We'll look forward to it. As far as we understand, the B game between Niamh Padraig Lifford and Letterkenny Gales is on at 1 o'clock, and the senior final, or the junior A final, is at 3 o'clock in O'Donnell Park between Downings and Letterkenny Gales as well. John, just finish off. It's been a while since St. John's won a championship. It's been dominated by the Niamh Connells and the Kilcars and the Goodores and that sort of thing. How important is it that the boys won yesterday compared to losing yesterday?
I very big, Charlie, because like a lot of people were making the point that if St. Junans didn't beat Niamh Connell yesterday, who was going to beat Niamh Connell for another couple of years? Because they would have had 3 in a row, Charlie. They had Ray and Ulster. We had them all blown up as this great team, which they were. But you know, so that was there as well, Charlie. I think for a lot of people, that who if we didn't beat them yesterday, who was going to stop them the next couple of years? Because obviously we weren't good enough yesterday if we didn't. But so it's very important for that, Charlie. Brilliant for the club. I know people say it's a big club and 7 years is too long and 6 years since you're in the final, but you've no God-given right, Charlie, to win it. Like, you know, St. John's have no God-given right to be in a county final every year and to win it. You have to go and earn it, and we stepped back there for a couple of years and we've come through now with this good team, a lot of young players, so the future's bright. But you know, as Danny would say there, that he's managed a couple of them boys through at minor, and Jim Clark and Paul McGovern and Brian McGeehan and Pádraig Ryan had that team, and Sean Mack, them boys, they won a Paul McGirr under 16 Ulster Championship, got to a minor final in Belfast, so they had pedigree, Charlie. But you know, our underage teams coming for the next couple of years haven't been great, so you know, you have to keep the thing going, Charlie, because
Yeah.
it
The
can
conveyor
slip
belt has to
away.
keep moving.
It has to. So
Yeah.
no, but Charlie, listen, the club's on a high, and it's a great lift to the people of the town that follow St. John's. And between the hurlers last week, like as Danny said, and people said, like, if the hurlers could do it, well, that was the template for the footballers to bring it, and they brought it, and you're just so proud of them, Charlie.
Fantastic. And Danny, final point, we won't write Niamh Connell off, we would do so at our peril, because they lost 2 finals in a row, and we thought, no, they had their chances and they just weren't good enough in that, and now they come back to dominate for 3 years after that. They'll be back. Martin Regan will think a lot about what happened over yesterday. I mean, as I said, after the game, he was very upfront. We just didn't perform. St. John's were far the better team and all that. He'll go away and start thinking about it. Hopefully he'll stay on, because he's done an incredible job. But whoever has a job will have a good squad of players to bring to the championship next year. So Niamh Connell will be back.
Oh, they'll definitely be back, Charlie, there's no doubt about that. But I think so will Kilcar, so will Gweedore. And I think Eunice are now the team to beat. And I think that the champion team in the county, the team that everybody kind of looks up to and tries to take down, And I think Martin will probably have a wee bit of soul searching to do in terms of, I think, 6 years in
Long
charge.
time.
You know, and it's a young family, and he may decide, you know, there might be a wee transition happening here with some of the older players in the group. So that's a decision they should leave off for a while.
Absolutely.
You know,
no
but
panic.
the only problem they have, Charlie, is they're going for 3 in a row, and they could have another county final coming up in a couple of weeks' time, and end up with having 1 out of 5 finals. So, see if this Kilcarrick-Glenties game or Connell game goes ahead, which it has to go ahead.
Yeah.
That's going to be a tasty. That's going to be a
Does
tasty
it, is
one.
it going to go ahead? Does anyone you hear it on
Well,
reports?
your guess
I
is as
think-
good as mine.
I
It
don't-
depends who you're talking to and what
Yeah.
day of the week it is.
Yeah,
That's the
okay,
way it is.
okay.
But I mean, there's a strong possibility it will be played or have to be played.
Okay.
Now, whether both teams agree to play it?
Well, after
that's
yesterday,
for sure.
Kilcarrick wanted.
Oh, they will for sure.
But go back to Martin Regan, a great 7. But I think if Martin Regan was to step down, it's big shoes to fill in Glenties and leave
yeah,
Colin
for
Club
sure.
because he's been there so long and it's got that backroom team. Now maybe some of the back, I don't know, Jerry, what's going to happen. I'm only speculating, but I think if we've spoken about Martin being there for so long and having them where he wanted them, and knowing the group so well and knowing how to handle them. If someone else comes in now, that transition could be tricky.
It's not our job to retire anybody's
Not
job.
at
But
all.
as Danny said, and I'm talking about the player aspect. There's a hard core of guys who've been there for a long time, given incredible service, and there comes a time, and we've all reached that time where you have to say, "Can I do this anymore?"
Exactly.
You probably stayed on longer than you should have.
Exactly, Charlie. You're taking off 20 minutes into a championship game against Gweedore, and you said, why didn't you go 2 years ago? But that's life.
That's another day's work.
That's another day's work.
That's
So
not
some of them have decisions to make. But listen,
But to be fair to Martin, he's cultivated a culture down there
He certainly has.
and
Yeah.
I think I believe that they'll all sit down and have a chat about where they're at and where they want to go, and I certainly would not rule them out next year again.
not at all.
rush.
No, not
No
at
rush.
all. There's not much between them teams, Jerry, and it's going to give Kilcar and Gweedore a lift. That the template's there of how to beat Niamh Connell, but Kilcar beat St Eunice this year at Donald Park when St Eunice were very good. So they'll be saying horses for courses, or Kilcar would rather play St Eunice, or St Eunice would rather play Gweedore, or Gweedore can always beat St Eunice. So
It's probably a
all
good
that
thing
mix.
for club football that there's a new,
Absolutely, I think so.
like 4 teams now next year will be going hard at it again.
All right, believe it. St Eunice move on to the Ulster Championship, of course, as indeed will the winners of the Intermediate and Junior Championship, and we hopefully will know that next week, which will be our last podcast next week, sad to say, but there'll be plenty to talk about, I can assure you, with John Hearn and Danny O'Donnell. Thanks to the boys for joining us. Thanks to Kelly's at the Mountaintop for their continued support. It's much appreciated. Thanks to Tommy Conway here at Full Tilt Studios for his patience with us as well. Believe it or not, he went to the match yesterday, so we've converted one man back into the GAA scene. Took his young son along and really enjoyed it. So there you go. Something good comes out of everything. Rejoin us next week.
Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast. Brought to you in association with Kelly Centra, multi-award winning store, Mountaintop Letterkenny, providing 24-hour service 7 days a week.